Okay, we're starting our first lesson with some definitions, and the definitions we're going to be doing is function and what is domain and range. So first, what is a function? If you remember, it's any relationship for every input, okay, there's only one distinct output, okay? There can only be one of them. And another way to put that is that for every x, there can only be one y, all right? So if I plug in 3 to a function, it should only give me one number, let's say 5. It can't be 3 and 7. That doesn't even make sense, right? It's just not cool. So there's two things you have to do for these questions. One, you have to see if it's a function, and two, state the domain and range. So first we have to see if it's a function. The first way to test that is to see if every input or every x has one output. Let's see, 0 has an output of 0, okay? 1 has an output of 3, 2 has an output of 5, 7 has an output of 5, and 3 has an output of 2. So is this a function or not? And if you look over here, this might be the confusing part. We're looking at this guy right here, and look, 2 outputs to 5, and 7 outputs to 5. So is this a function or not? Well, actually, yeah, it is. This would be a function. Why? Because for every input, 2 only has one output, and 7 has one output. So it's okay that they have the same output, but if it was like this, 2, 5, 2, 3, then we'd have a problem, because every input can only have one output. So yes, it is a function. Now we got to see what's the domain and range. First, domain just is you take your lowest x value. Remember, that's all possible x values. So let me get this all out of here. So we look at what our lowest x value is, and the lowest one is 0. Okay? So our domain is going to be all the numbers greater than or equal to 0, right? So that's our x values. And our highest x value is 7. So we'd say from 0 to 7. Now for our range, once again, we just look for our lowest value, which is right here. That's our lowest range value. That's our lowest y, so it's going to be 0. And the y is going to be any numbers between that and what's our highest value? 5. Alright, that's our domain and range. X is 0 to 7, y is 0 to 5. Next definitions, onto and one-to-one. Now functions can be special. You have two definitions. A function is one-to-one. Each element of the domain corresponds to exactly one unique element in the range. Alright, that means each element in your inputs, this is a function map, can only have one output. Okay, sorry, one unique output. A function is onto if each element of the range corresponds to an element in the domain. Now, what does this mean? I know this is kind of crazy language, okay? How does this even work? Well, let's look at this one. If you look at this first guy right here, let's just look at the example of onto. This one is onto because, look, each element in this one, each x, corresponds to a y, right? Everything has something here. So this guy goes here, this guy goes here, this guy goes here, yada, yada, yada. This one would be not onto. And if you look here, it's because every element in the x doesn't correspond to something in the y, right? These guys are all connected. But over here, we're missing some guys. So I would say this is not onto, okay? Because not every element in x has an element in y, whereas this one does. Now let's look at one-to-one. One-to-one means that each one of these has a correspondence of one thing. So it's not, nothing is double linked, right? So here it's one-to-one, definitely, but it's not onto because look, C is not linked to anything. So it's one-to-one. Each thing is linked to one thing only, but is not onto. Now if we look at this guy, well, each thing is not one-to-one because if we look, 4 and 3 are both linked to the same thing. So it's not one-to-one, right? Because each doesn't have a distinct thing. So this is onto because everything is linked, but not one-to-one. Alright, I hope this helps with your quest. And guys, remember, stay safe, wear a helmet when you're biking, and when you look yourself in the mirror, just tell yourself these 3 words. I am worth it. Yeah, that's 4 words, I get it.